What is reality? Obviously, no one can say because it isn't words. It isn't material, that's just an idea. Reality is... cannot be explained in words.
Oh man. I don't know what episode this is because we do so many and they're 11. All like, this is 11. Damn, yeah. Yo, 11.
Yeah.
That's so wild. We've done that many.
I know,
Welcome
bro.
To the Really Dope podcast where we just have a gang of questions that we ask one another and throw out to you guys to see what you think. Yep. Questioning what's really real, searching for it. I mean, there's a point where, like we've talked about, we may never find out. But
yes,
I guess you have to accept the energy of the search, the journey, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, unless we actually get to have it handed to us and seen by who did it, you know, we're all in a way just kind of speculating and riding the waves of life as best we can.
Bro, and you know what's the trip? I find it so interesting that we started this podcast and all of a sudden, you know, the world turns into something that we've never seen before with like the coronavirus and shit. And they start dumping out all kinds of crazy information. We're getting little tidbits of what's really real in a way. Like, at least if you assume what we've heard so far is like true. But what I was going to say, it kind of goes along with that because, like, you know, we had the UFO dump about like the Pentagon says those are real, blah, 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 the videos, et cetera, et cetera. So that gets you on a whole path. What I was going to say that's kind of funny is that, so this week we were going to do something totally different. You know, we were going to get into aliens and we're going to go like push pause on all the stuff we've been talking about for these first 10 episodes.
Right.
And switch gears. Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to do that was because I was like, damn, bro, like me personally, like, you know, you always say like, man, honestly, I didn't want to feel this way. I hate this. I want to take the pill and go back and taste the steak again and shit like Cypher. Right. And I'm like, I'm good, bro. I'm good. And I am good. But I was like, damn, bro, I'm kind of tired of beating up on the Bible and like going through all this. Like, can we just pause on that shit? I was like, what else can we talk about? Like, fuck it. Are aliens real? That's in the intro, right? Well, fuck it. Let's talk about that.
Right.
So originally we were going to get into like the ancient alien theory, which I know you've been salivating for, like chomping at the bit, bro, like dying. And I love that too. And we'll get into that. But unfortunately, something, you know, more tragic and sad happened this week. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know about this person that passed away, but we'll get into that because from this person passing away, we ended up getting a really great conversation going on our Felipe's Garage Mechanics Lounge. Yeah. And when I read that, I was like, damn, we need to bring the homie on. So we got a special guest that's coming up. Yeah, but before we do that, we always tell you guys to email us reallythoughpodcast@gmail.com. And so some of you take us up on it, right?
Yeah.
So our homeboy T-Bear from, you know, he's in the lounge and shit, our homie Marcus, he sent us a message and he actually recorded it. He said it was too much to write in the email. So he emailed us a recording and said that we could play it. So I'm going to play it. It's a little bit long, but you know, whatever. Let's just do this.
It's good.
You know what I'm saying? All right. So I'm going to play, his feedback for one of our episodes.
Cool.
Yo, first of all, peace Cookbook, peace to Nesto, Really Dope Podcast. This is your boy, the most fabulous T-Bear 183. And if you know me from the Mechanics Lounge, this is Marcus. First of all, I want to say I like what you guys is doing with the Really Dope Podcast. And I just wanted to chime in a little bit. Well, hell, first of all, I knew you guys' story was going to be interesting given your backgrounds and what have you. And quite honestly, it's refreshing to see people who kind of feel, I would say the way that I feel, or the way that me and my wife feels nowadays about this whole religion game, Christianity game. And I see where you guys are going. It's not so much that you don't believe in God or in Christ or what have you, but a lot of this stuff is ridiculous. And anybody who spent time working with the church or working for the church, if they feel like being candid about it, they will tell you that, you know, it's a lot of stuff that we done seen. This, you have to step back and look and say, what's really going on here? You know, I don't really think this is what we're supposed to be doing, you know. And I get the angle, the way that they push things on us. If you push it as far left as possible, then you would hope that people would go right. But I mean, it kind of negates like one of the first rules of church is come as you are, you know. So I feel you guys. First of all, I don't have no issue with y'all cussing or talking how you talk. Be who you are, because that's who anybody else was. If we were set back in quote unquote biblical times, that's who we would be anyway. We would just be who we are. Yeah. You know, just trying to get a hold on life and figure out our way, much like how we're doing right now. But anyway, I got to get in to the official first show. You know, Nesto, first off, man, it's dope that you backed up anything that you did with scripture, because that's how we were taught. You know, when you want to come and talk about anything biblical, Pastor, you got to back it up with the scripture. It's right. Also dope that you came in and went a few verses ahead and a few verses behind just to give context, because anybody that has any skin in this Christianity game know that a person or a half-assed preacher or whatever, you can take a verse and stretch it and mold it into whatever the hell you want, you know, if not put in the right context. So it's dope that you did that. But I have to say, I was kind of waiting. I did kind of want to hear how you said Jesus did some real cussing, man. I don't really know what I expected you to say, but I just thought it would be dope if Jesus called somebody a motherfucker or some shit like that, you know. But it didn't go down quite like that, but it was still dope how you did it, you know. But that's just me. That's just me. But anyway, man, I love what you guys is doing. Me saying all this was too long to type it. That's why I decided to do the voice record. And you can play it on the show if you want. I don't really care.
Whoops.
You know, I ain't got nothing to hide. But anyway, keep up the goods. And man, when I think of other stuff, man, I think I'm gonna chime in some more. All right, y'all. Peace.
Thank you, brother Marcus, bro.
Yeah, man, that was great.
He was looking for more of a heater, man. He thought that thou fools was too light.
I know, but this is what's so crazy. To the ears of the people of that day, that's what that sounded like.
Bro. Nah, he wanted Jesus to be Lauryn Hill, bro, and drop
modern day
drop a motherfucker so you ignorant niggas hear me. That's what he wanted. He was trying to get that going, yo.
I know. Jesus, he wanted that modern day English language. Right.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. I mean, it seems like from, the context and whatnot that like raka seemed like a real bad word, almost like saying motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But since fool was like in danger of hellfire, then I guess, that's pretty hardcore. You know what I mean?
It's pretty hardcore, man. And what's so crazy is it's like what we were talking about. It's the intention behind the stuff. And that's what a lot of people miss because they hear a word. And even on the positive side, like people could hear the word love and think like a certain thing based on, what angle they're coming from. But somebody else could have meant like a different kind of love. Like, no. Like a brother.
Yeah, exactly.
That's shit we hate hearing from girls we really are into. Like, no. I love you, but like my cousin. Like I love my cousin.
Like you're my buddy. Get tossed in the friend zone. It's like friend zone.
Right,
cousin.
Dude. It's these words, man. It's just it's really a powerful thing. So yeah, but that's so cool. when I was thinking about that topic too, I was just hoping that one day, you know, when this gets to be expressed, people could, you know, do what they have the ability to do now. Just send that episode to someone, you know, that is hardcore on cuss words or hardcore on this and that. Like, just send them that and hear people dialoguing about the angle of things that maybe they didn't look at before. So hopefully
that's good.
That goes down.
Yeah, that's good. Well, all right, man, let's keep it moving. So thank you, Brother Marcus, for the feedback. Yeah, Marcus, keep it coming. Thanks, and for the rest of y'all, you can send in voicemails. We'll play it. It's almost like he was a guest on the show today.
I know. I like that.
This motherfucker dropped 4 minutes of a voicemail, bro, and we played it all. We don't give a shit. We don't give a shit. So check it out, man. So we got a special guest today, and just to kind of kick how it all came about. Basically, right now we're recording on Memorial Day, right? And this past weekend, somebody who we knew from our past, from our, you know, me coming up in Christian hip hop, and then you obviously from your end as well. And I'm sure Aaron, when we introduce him, he probably has a story as well. A guy named Mr. Solo from Gospel Gangsters suddenly passed, and we all heard about it, and it really hit us all in different ways. So we were talking about it in the lounge, in the Felipe's Garage Mechanics Lounge, and the homie Aaron the Forman, shout out to my man Aaron Weary, he posed some really good thought-provoking questions, and he literally changed the trajectory of this episode. I mean, we were all set to talk about Ancient Aliens, bro, and really go there finally. Like Nestor was like, finally, finally. But then here comes Aaron the Forman with a whole different freaking blueprint. But no, not just that. We wanted to, you know, when somebody like that passes, that meant something to us like that. We also, it seems weird to just start talking about aliens and not at least give some light and some shine. So what I thought we could do, first of all, let's introduce Aaron the Forman. What's up, Aaron? How are you, brother?
What's up? How you doing? I'm good.
Woo, he's back.
Welcome
he's been
back.
on Felipe's Garage a couple times. Now he's infiltrated really, though, and he's moving up in the ranks. Like, the first time we just let him hold the mics, right? Then we let him get like 5 minutes in Oakland, like maybe. And then he got on Felipe's Garage, and he was like, you know, good 15, 20 minutes. Now this motherfucker's going to be on the whole episode. He just came in as our first ever special guest. We was like, we're going to bring in a pastor or like some biblical professor, scholar. No, we're bringing the tattoo artist Aaron the Forman in here, bro, to let us know what's really real, yo.
Hell yeah.
How you guys been? Good to see you.
Yeah,
good to see you too, man.
Bro.
Hey, before we get into it, though, I got a real serious question for both of you. Would you consider the movie Raid an action flick or a martial arts movie?
If you don't listen to Felipe's Garage, you're not going to get that. But
no, the rest of y'all, that, you know.
Go find that episode, and you'll know what Aaron's
worth
talking
a listen.
about.
Bro,
Yeah.
Don't argue much, but man, that was good.
That was me and Nestle's first actual argument, bro. And if I really admit it, I mean, I was definitely being the gas man, kind of like how E. Green is. I was definitely just poking at the bear, like, because I genuinely, really, really like both those movies a lot. But I just wanted to. And once I saw Nestle kind of take the bait, I had to keep going a little further,
God,
bro. But we actually kind of got into it because you got so upset, bro.
It was entertaining. I had to keep poking just a little bit.
Because when I deal with like movies and who likes what and shit like that, I'm usually, I can be passionate, but it's all fun and love. But when I present something to my homeboys and I'm serious about it, I like take it personal. Like, it felt like I made the movie and handed it as a present, because I've done that with some other movies and they loved them. So when I did that with this, like, this is something that's not, I'm not just a hype man on this. This is like global. People respect it. Like, you know, John Wick spawned off of shit like this. So when I gave this to this nigga, and this nigga was like, these niggas talking in the corner like nothing going. I was like, bro, no way. It just was so hard, dude. And then he throw in a little like, I like it, but and then bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
All I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah, sorry, bro. I had to throw that in there a little bit. You know what I mean?
No, that was great.
God, bro.
That was great. So
before we get into it, I do want to thank you both for and I haven't gotten through. I should have flipped over that drive to Vegas I had to make. I should have flipped over. I was listening to Felipe's Garage. I should have went to Really Though.
Don't worry about it, bro.
That's the story, and I got through part of yours, Jason. I do want to thank you and appreciate how honest and open you guys are. I know that's not easy. I know Vanessa got a little emotional. Like I said, I haven't got through all yours yet, Cook, but I know that's tough. I don't know where tonight's going to go, but, you know, I can foresee that same thing. So I thank you guys, and I appreciate your openness. I think
absolutely
that matters that you guys are talking about.
Absolutely. So what I thought would be good for us to start is to do a full comprehensive review of the Raid 1 and 2 again. No, I'm just kidding. No, but actually really, like, if you have anything that you'd like to share, this all started with a passing of somebody who was a good dude. Maybe we could start with you, Aaron, and then we'll get back to like who you are and how you kind of came, how you relate to, and you could even put that into this, whatever you know about Mr. Solo, or if you ever had any encounters with him, or if he even meant anything to you. I don't know.
Yeah, he did. And what I had posted in the lounge was about my personal experience on how it related to that. I mean, we look at those guys as a group of guys that, because of their beliefs, their life path changed drastically.
True. Hold on, Aaron. You know what? Yeah. We didn't really tell them clearly. Like, in case you don't know who Mr. Solo is, he was a Christian rapper from a rap group called Gospel Gangsters, and it was two Crips and one Blood who had a life-changing experience, got saved, and began to do music for God. They were Christian rappers. And then I think we all have our own individual experiences. I have, I've told the story before, but I'm going to sort of reiterate it. And then Nesto, what you posted was your story, and I never even knew like your encounter with them. And then Aaron, it feels like you're about to get into like what's going to be like the crux of this whole podcast, which is totally fine. I just was like, we're already going down that path, and they might not even know who this dude is.
Yeah, right.
But he's not just a dude who was like a rapper, who was a Christian rap, whatever. Like, he was genuinely like a good dude, at least from what I knew. It sounds like, Nesto, you probably knew him better. I told my story on Felipe's Garage already about making my first beat. Like, nobody was helping us make beats. And we're just kids. I just had a beat machine at the house in my parents' garage making beats. And we went to a concert where Gospel Gangsters was playing, and I just went up and I was talking to Mr. Solo, and hey man, we're just young rapper trying to do, and our style's like on some De La Soul weird shit, but he didn't even care. He's like, nah man, you know what? Come to the homie Dub's house, and and when I told that story on Felipe's Garage, it was more about Dub and kind of how much of a dick he was to us, to be honest, and he treated us terrible.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the way that Mr. Solo treated us, and the way he was cool, like some little De La Soul, little weirdo kids, coming with these weird kind of samples that probably they would never use. And he sat there and he pushed the buttons and made the beat for us at Dub's house.
Wow.
In the midst of Dub's sort of, opposition to it. He's like, basically like, F you, I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And after that, I would see him once in a while, just going to shows as a kid. And one of the things I remember, and then I'll pass it to you guys, is he was very real and very honest about his walk, the things he struggled with, the things that made him angry. And I did feel that passion and that sort of militant attitude that he had, like, we're doing this. And I remember him telling me a story about just how he was struggling with, like, he was writing his Christian rap songs, and he wrote in a line there some, the song I guess was about like some hypocrisy in church or whatever, and he wrote a line that was like something like, what I see in the pulpit and some is all a bunch of bullshit. And he wrote that, and he wanted to say it, and he went to his pastor and was like, this is what I feel, this is what I want to say, like. And I think his pastor talked him out of it, But to me, that struck me. I was basically a kid, and he's telling me this story, and I'm like, dude, that's so real. Like, we're not supposed to cuss. We just got through listening to a voicemail about our cussing episode, and it's kind of funny, but that's where he was at. He was like, I want to be real. I don't care. I don't care. I want to say this. But I think eventually he didn't say it. You know what I mean? He went with what his pastor was telling him. But him telling us that story was still a big deal, too. These young dudes that are like, whoa, that's what you're saying right now? Like, we're looking up to you. And you're like, I want to say bullshit in my Christian raps. It's like, whoa, But anyway, those are the two stories that I really remember about him, which just said to me what a nice guy he was and how real he was. So anyway, next, Aaron, Nesto, anybody?
Nesto, go ahead, man. Mine's more peripheral to who they were, but
okay,
Nesto has a more on-task version of what they meant to him.
Yeah. For me, when I discovered him when I was out in Bible school in Oklahoma. And, always looking for alternate rap music, hip hop, anything that didn't have a lot of cussing and a lot of craziness, so that we could feed our spirits. That was like, the big thing. Like you just don't want to pollute it with craziness. So when we go to the Christian bookstore, they popped up and I saw their, their cassette. It was like, these niggas look real. Like
for real,
like
yeah.
They just got off the streets, and then when I got that tape, like they had
it was hard.
Their first song was called "Before Redemption," and it was them rapping about what they used to do.
Yeah,
drive by, just the crazy shit, and they were dropping. Huh?
Let's not forget how dope he was on the mic. Like, legit dope. Like. We're talking about early 90s right now, and this dude was just as good as anybody you heard on the radio. And I'm not just saying
he's incredible.
I hate when people die and all of a sudden they're saints perfect and everything they did. You hear people like, everybody loved him. Like, I don't like that because it's a little. I understand why people say it, and I probably would say it if like a loved one passes away, like you were the best and they did nothing wrong, when it's not really true. But it is really true that this dude could rap his ass off, and he was incredible on the mic. That's a gangster rapper, but with like hard lyrics, like really good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get cut in. I just wanted to say that.
No. Yeah. But that's exactly, and so they had a song called "Before Redemption," and they were saying "nigga" in it. So that was for kind of my circle of friends when we were hearing them say it, even though we said it, behind the scenes or whatever. But hearing it in an album, it was almost like, oh my God, this is so dope, dude. It felt like such a like what you would consider like a crossover, like a real representation of like authenticity. And to be able to cross that over into the Christian world, we felt like, oh, good, man. It was like refreshing because at that stage, quote unquote Christian hip hop was not super popular. It was just breaking down the doors and some barriers. There was no money in it. There was nothing like that. So super long story short, they came and did a concert out there in Oklahoma. And I remember drawing a picture of the like the album cover with them, but I put some giant ass angels in back of them, like buff ass, because that's how I used to draw.
Of course you did.
I was
buff angels. Buff angels? No.
Right. I was so against the idea of the cherubim being like these fluffy little babies with wings. Yeah. And when I would see that in postcards and shit like that, I remember being in a bookstore and looking at that and being so frustrated and being like, why doesn't somebody do something about that? And then in my heart, I heard, why don't you do something about it? And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. That's a whole nother story, what I ended up drawing T-shirts and posters and selling conferences and all that shit. But with the Gospel Gangster thing, I gave them that at the end of the concert, and Solo passed it to, he was like, TikTok, look at this, and chill. And they came over, and they were all excited about art. And I forgot how tied into hip-hop, graffiti art, and just art in general is. Like, I forgot that. I'm in Bible school. I'm memorizing shit for the Bible. Like, my mind isn't in that whole sphere. So when they came, they're fresh. They're like absolutely into that immediately. They was like, nigga, we turning this into a t-shirt. They were going crazy. And so I was like, wow, man. And, you know, because at that time, they were really like heroes to me.
Yeah.
Hearing all the music, and it really, you know, gets you through some hard times. And sometimes it's like the kind of thing where you just pass it to someone else to listen, and you don't even have to explain anything. Like, bro, just peep this. And it's such a cool, like, you know, thing. So seeing them, that was the bomb. So we stayed in touch. They gave me their numbers, and I was like, oh, man, just scared to even use it. And then a part of me was even, because at that time, I was so pulled in different directions where I really didn't want to be out in Oklahoma anymore, you know? I think I was out of Bible school by the time they came, but I was still living out there. And I was either engaged, I think I might have been, I don't think I was married yet. But anyway, through the years, I stayed in contact with them. I saw them a couple of more times when it was the three of them still. Then a lot of years passed, and one of them, the one who was an ex-Blood, TikTok, he ended up going to jail on some charges, you know, something
like
crazy.
His past caught up with him, basically.
Yeah, something wild. And he didn't fight it. He wasn't like, you know, denying it or whatever. You know, it's still kind of like that Christian mode of like, face what you went, you know, what you did and just be real about it. So he went, man, and it's pretty wild. So I stayed in contact with Solo and Chill a lot, both separately, like a lot of separate conversations, and then different times they'd be on the phone together. Another super long story short, so they had a song that they were doing that they asked me if I'd be down to do a music video for, because we'd all become Facebook friends, and they saw that I was directing, right? All they knew me as was an artist, you know, and just a cool dude for a long time. So when they saw that I was doing that, it was like, oh my God, dude, would you be down? I was like, are you kidding me? They go, bro, we don't have much money. I was like, fuck the money. And I grabbed everybody I could, man, like multiple camera guys and production. And we'd like, I mean, in my brain, when I wrote out the idea, even for the video, it was like cinematic. It was movie type stuff. And all they'd done is just performance stuff. So that was kind of we didn't butt heads with it, but we shot so much footage. And when I cut the first draft, it was just like a movie. It was more story and less rap. And they were like, bro, people need to see us busting though, bro. And I was just like, oh man,
got too excited.
This is gonna be because I had such an idea for a feature film for them, like a low budget, and we were gonna put some money together to do it based off of some stuff that was in the actual video that, you know, that I felt would be dope to be seen, like a modern day Axe. Like they, you know, them walked around the streets with power and just kind of healing people and breaking up fights mysteriously and wild shit, you know. So that's what I incorporated in the video. I wanted to make it into a movie. So again,
crazy.
I spent a lot of time with them, and even, you know, my mom did, and we got to man, we just got to be real close and like real talk about how they felt about stuff. And they've been done really, really bad by, you know, some different labels and ministers and situations. And I could relate to a lot of that. And, but you know, they were still holding on to their kind of like their heritage in it. Like they didn't want to give that up. Chill was more like, bro, let's drop the gospel and just be 2 G's and let's get out there and kind of cross over, because that might be hindering us. The Solo was the one that was like, nah, man, we keep that gospel in there and we just, you know, stay strong with it. We just got to fight and push on and just recognize that, you know, that the Lord has our back. He was like that. Damn. And so when I was coming out more of my, like what I would consider religious thinking and kind of like the pressures that I was under, I'm more attached to myself to Chill, because he was on that too. It was Solo that was the balance in the middle. That was like the priest almost that we couldn't talk in front of, because we were on some like, fuck that, man, they're doing us wrong. Like, let's go out and do some wild shit and just let them deal with it, you know? Labels, Christians, churches. And it was like, And Solo was always, you know, the priest, bro. Even though he cussed and he was mad cool and you could talk to him about anything. He wasn't like, don't smoke in front of me. Don't, you know, it wasn't like that. But with the gospel thing, he was very much, you know, he believed that it was a warfare that we were in and that it was demonic forces that were influencing ministers and the ministry and mainstream, all that stuff. So the only way to be the purest is to stand your ground with what you started with and just keep pushing no matter what, you know. So you know, he really, I mean, that really affected me a lot because I looked up to those guys so much and I know what they've gone through in their past. They didn't brag about. Like, that's stuff that they wouldn't be like, nigga, you know what we used to do? It wasn't like that. When it would come up in conversation, some of it was because the movie that we were going to do was going to be like almost like a Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society, where it shows literally what they used to do and then their transition, because I've never seen a movie like that in my life. Nothing that's mad hardcore. Like when Christians do Christian movies, it's all kind of still what I would consider buttery or watered down. It's just, it's very family friendly, quote unquote. Yet there's a gang of families out there that are going through raw shit. And if they saw something they could relate to that was really, really hardcore, you'd be like, oh man, it seems like it would touch people even more. Right. So that's what we were going for. And he just was like, he was just amazing to me, dude. Not just his skill and everything, but him as a person, it was real.
Yeah.
So after we shot the video and the video was good, and you know, I have a ton of footage because I was going to do multiple videos from that same one. I was going to do a couple different versions. So now, you know, when I heard about this, I just happened to be flipping through Facebook, and I saw Chill, his post that was like, you know, it just started out where you're reading and you're going, who is he talking about right now? Because there is no way, like,
there's no way it's Mr. Solo. No way.
No, bro. Like, literally no way. Like, this gets into, which I know we'll start talking about more as we go, but this gets into like the whole idea that there should be people that are untouchable in that way. Like, they can't be leaving Earth when we got these niggas raping kids, still doing great. Making money on their businesses and do it. Like, you know, it starts getting to that whole. This has got to be a drug. So then in my mind, it was like, was this Corona? Was this some heat from the old days catching up? Because when I read it, I could not believe it. And I was scrolling down and looking at other people posting RIPs and nobody explaining what happened. So I started calling Chill. When I reached him, he was at the coroner's office and he couldn't talk. So I was like, oh my God, dude. And that was like 2 a.m. So I couldn't even sleep, man. So I stayed up, you know, just trying to brace myself, because he said he would call me back later. And then another one of our mutual homies who was in the video with him, Six Pack, he hit me up and he was blown away. And I was like, dude, I got no information. And he didn't either. So I finally got a hold of Chill the next day, and he told me that, you know, I don't know what's public about this, but I don't think that this is going to be anything hidden. If it needs to be, then we could beep it out until, you know, whatever. But I'm telling you guys right now, what Chill told me was he was at his place and his mom found him kind of just choking, like gasping for air, like out of the blue. He collapsed, and then his mom went down and was trying to help him, couldn't understand what was going on. She called 911, and by the time 911 came, he was gone. Now, bro, you know what? Like, nothing would satisfy this situation because it happened, period. Nothing that you can hear of a reason would be good enough to go, oh, okay, I see why he needed to die. You know what I mean? There's no kind of news. But this, just random, like, it's not even like I asked Chill, I said, has he had like health issues or heart condition or like anything? You know, they're doing an autopsy, you know, to get some answers. But he goes, bro, I used to tease that nigga that he's an old ass nigga and he's so in shape and takes care of himself. You know, they were going back and forth about that for a long time, but it wasn't like he had health issues or nothing. So it was so out of the blue that it leaves you in that twisted parallel universe, man. Like, you don't know what to do with it. It's kind of like how the world is with the coronavirus, because they can't choke a person. It's not a skin issue. It's not race. It's not
right.
So you know what I mean? Like, we as humans need somebody to attack, usually someone to point the finger at or the blame, so that we can let out this rage and then get people with us. It's like that's how we function. So if something hits you that's nature, you don't know what the fuck to do. Nature.
Yeah.
So you know, do you
move? We need the bad guy to blame it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like think about all these countries where tsunamis hit and they call them different names and they stay there and fucking, you know, nobody can negotiate with the tsunami. Viruses, this type of thing happening, it just leaves you so blank, bro. You know, and Chill was on the phone with me. I've never seen or heard him cry. And I've seen them in conferences, and me and Cook can attest to things like this. Maybe you too, Aaron. You can be in a conference where there's ministry going on, right? Like, let's say afterwards when they call people up, who wants to be touched by God, who wants a hug, who wants to be prayed for, whatever, and people come up, and the energy in that atmosphere, people are crying, dude, they're falling to their knees, kids, adults, all different kinds of people, not even just like, oh, those are emotional people. No, dude, like, you know, people breaking down that you would never think would break down. I've seen a lot of that, and ministers crying with them and all that type of stuff. So I've seen Solo and Chill in some places like that. Like after they finish rapping and stuff, crowds come up, people taking off their bandanas, laying rags down at the floor, like all kinds of wild shit. And never have I seen them cry though. Either one of them, Solo or Chill. Chill was on the phone crying with me about this. He goes, I got nobody, man. This is my brother, man. Since we was kids, like this is all I've known. He's been there with me through everything.
Jeez, man.
All the dirt and all the beauty. So for him to even be articulate enough to talk on the phone after some shit like this, and not just go out and like, well, I'm gonna burn a city down. I'm just gonna go destroy shit. Like, you know, Rodney King gets hurt and niggas just destroy America. You know, like this, like, did you know Rodney King? No. And so then, you know, but you got somebody like Chill, and he's just like, man, you know, Solo recorded when the quarantine hit, he started recording. And it's so funny that a couple months ago, Chill hit me up and was like, dude, my son, all these people keep saying I need to get back in the booth to start rapping. I just don't know. I was like, nigga, yes. And he goes, Solo has been begging him every day. Come to the studio, man. Come through.
Oh,
and he just wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. And I said to him, I said, listen, if you go over there, I'll film it, bro. And whatever song you guys do, we'll make like a little documentary. We'll do. He goes, bro, but I don't got no money. I was like, nigga, fuck the money. Just go over there and let me know when you're doing it. And I'll come and we'll do something out of this. He goes, for real? I said, bro, people need to hear from you. They really do. There's a fan base out there. There's people that you guys really could touch. And you gonna let Solo just rap alone? How you not gonna do, you know? And
you're like, I know his name is Solo, but damn, bro,
I know.
with him.
And he goes, I'll think about it, man. I'll think about it. I was like, God, bro. And I was waiting on that phone call. Never got that phone call. And that nigga Solo finished an album. A solo album. And so supposedly they're you know, it's got a cut. It might have a couple, but it's got one for sure with Lecrae. So they're working out some things, and you know, Chill is at a point where he's gonna do some stuff, you know, with it, because now his whole energy is like, man, you know, it sucks that nobody got to see him shine like he really needs to. But he's like, now he's pulling out all the stops to do whatever he can do. So that's a beautiful thing. And he asked me to make a dedication video. So that's what I'm spending this this next week, like going through a gang of footage and everything, so I can put some together for them for the memorial, which we don't know when it is yet.
Bro, you know what's crazy? First thing that strikes me as crazy is here's something else that I had no idea about you. As this, I had no idea that you knew these dudes like that. Like I met them a couple times, and I rap. Like you like calling these fools and crying on the phone with them and everything. That's pretty wild, man.
It is.
Well, Aaron, shit. Well, let's pass it to you because I think from from where you're going to pick it up from, I think it'll trickle into what you were talking about on the lounge, which is what we thought would be a good thing to talk about on this episode, kind of springboarding, not to, we honor him. It's not to just say, all right, cool, we talked about him, we're off that. But it is a springboard to an interesting topic that you brought up on the lounge that we wanted to explore. So, I mean, just share, your perspective on it and where you want to take it, and we'll chime in.
Yeah, for me, I've seen my shows. They're not, I knew a lot of people in that world, and we played a lot of shows with a lot of those people, yourself included, Cook. But I never met those guys, but huge respect for them. And especially going back to what you said, Nesto, where at that time, let's be completely honest, the Christian music period, garbage. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. And I'm not disrespecting anybody. However, to what the things that all of us were into, personally, whether it's hip hop, heavy metal, hardcore punk, whatever it was, the Christian version of that, even the Christian pop, was a crappy version of what was hot. Hip-hop, like they were doing this, and this, because pop hip hop was doing this, and this, and they were just doing, and it was just never good.
Aaron, did you ever used to go?
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And did you ever used to go to Christian bookstores and they would literally have this? Like, imagine we're talking about gospel gangsters. There would be a chart on the wall in the Christian bookstore that would say, "Do you like NWA? Then you'll like gospel gangsters.
Yep.
Do you like, whoever was hot? Do you like NWA?
They had to do it.
Then you'll like T-Bone." It was literally like line for line. Like, we are clearly letting you know that we're copying secular artists so that we can look cool. Like, it was that blatant of how they were being. So you're right on.
Groups like them, groups like LA Symphony, groups that I really appreciated, because it was no longer, to me, it was not, even though it was Christian hip hop, it wasn't Christian hip hop. What it was good hip hop that happened to be made by Christians.
Right.
Yeah.
I can tell you tons of stories about different shows that I was at, where, a lot of that was starting to blend. Like, you would have secular artists with Christian artists playing shows. Like, I remember going to a hardcore show at a VFW hall, back in the day. That was my stuff, Like, I'd be in college and we go to the show, and you don't know any of the bands, but it's a hardcore show or it's a hip hop show or whatever. You're like, let's go. You know what I mean? And we got to the show, and there's some straight edge bands, some hardcore bands. This band comes up that I had never heard of, and they tear in the song. And there's, if I remember correctly, regular setup, drummer, bass, singer, guitar, and then extra guitar. So 5 dudes on stage, and they tear into this thing with all the, fury of the world. And they are running into each other and jumping over each other, and the intensity is off the charts. And the song, and the singer goes, "We are fed by ravens. We rock out for Jesus. 1, 2, 3, 4," and then into the next song. And I'm just like, yes, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You know what I mean? And it was who you just connect with. And, the guys that we're talking about now, it was the same thing. It was that kind of almost kind of gangster hip hop that, gangster rap that we were already connecting with anyway. But now it was, we can relate to it on another level. You know what I mean? Props for them. They were like one of the first big ones that I think they were the gateway for a lot of. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Cook, but for some people, it was them into LA Simp, or it was them and then into Grits, or whoever.
It was like the authentic version of that list at the Christian bookstore. It was like, no, it's the real, like, they're actually dope. You know, like if you like real shit, then you just like them or LSF or whoever, you know. So definitely.
Yeah, and that was my point in the lounge was, you know, these guys were guys that were real, and they went through some stuff in their life. It wasn't, and this is my true issue with Christian music is I don't want to hear the happy hallelujah, hallelujah. Cool, I get that. Give me your perspective. Give me your input. These guys went through some stuff and came out the other end better because of their beliefs. That was what I really appreciated about them and a lot of groups like that. You know, they were willing to say, hey, this was the life that I led, but now because of my belief in God, this is where I'm at now. And that's huge. And so my point was that those guys, without their belief, how's that story go? You know what I mean? A lot of variation that could have happened. And again, depending on what you believe, whether that's, you know, God, whether that was God's plan or blah, 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 you know, there's a million different avenues to go down. But, you know, without their belief, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but would they all be dead right now? You know what I mean? Like, that life have caught them sooner if they hadn't made that change. And so the reason I made that point was, and this, you know, we'll get into my faith and whatever, but, you know, at one point after I had moved out to California, I was even doing like this. We were doing, on Skype, we were doing Bible study with, and this is, I'm always in these like crazy Bible studies with dudes that are just off the charts, and we'll talk about some of that. But with one of the people that kind of needed help was an atheist, and was, I don't believe. And so we started doing this thing, and he was willing, which was weird, and he was a good friend of mine. We've been in a band together, and we had toured and whatever. But I moved out here, and things had just gone way downhill for him and his family and his wife and his kids and everything. And my point to what I put in the lounge was, at one point during that, you know, the woe is me thing, and he's feeling sorry for himself and this, and God can't help me. I go, okay. I go, you haven't believed up to this point? How's that worked out for you? You know what I mean? It didn't. You know, his life was a mess. Even if, let's say, you're a believer, and then one day, you know, something happens and they find some historical thing or whatever, and then some people will already say this, oh yeah, it was all made up. It wasn't, you know, if you believed and you followed the 10 Commandments and you were a better person for believing, what's the harm in that? You know what I'm saying? Like, if that made you a better person, you behaved because of the way that those ideals were structured, and you were willing to, you know, make the right choices and do the right things and live your life in a way that was good because of it. In worst case scenario, if it's not real, you still were a good person. You know what I mean? And so I think it's tied into what they did and kind of, you know, where you guys are talking about, you know, once you've kind of lost faith or whatever, or what's real, you know, whether that faith or God is real, whatever. Does that even matter at that point if it's made you a better person?
Nesto, go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a lot to unpack.
Sorry, my man.
No, dude,
that's
so good, bro. And that perspective, like, that's a you know, that's a good one. That for these guys in particular, you know, like when I think about solo, like, you know, even like when I spoke about what happened to my friend April, you know, or family members, like just different people that I've experienced, you know, I've had a lot of loss in my life with close people that was so like, how is this happening? You know, and you know, there's so many different angles of, you know, well, where are they now? And, you know, just what people do or say to comfort people in times like this. Like I know, you know, when my ex-wife's mom died and we had the funeral and stuff, and, you know, we just want to make sure as a family that the minister, whoever that was, wasn't going to get up there and say that this was God's timing. And that's something that, you know, when I went to the memorial service for April, when, different ones that were there got to take the mic and speak or whatever. And that's one of the things that I pointed out, and wasn't trying to cut into anybody, but I just wanted to make it known that, this is not, without making a big old teaching thing, this is not how the God that we talk about would take someone out of this life and bring them to where he is, like this, through a murder or, rape or anything tragic like that. So sometimes when these ministers gloss over these things, when people are hurt and broken, this is the time period that a lot of people come to God, when they're wounded and when they're hurt. So it's always been like, to me, that's almost like the cop-out time. That's how I felt. I used to feel like, well, that's easy. Everybody's broken and hurt, so you can rub on them, you can comfort them with words about anything, and they'll believe it at that time. Or if their life is in shambles, but what about, does this work for people that are clear thinking, have money, don't really have issues? They're good people. They've got questions too. If this is a different gospel for them than for the poor people and hurt people, then give me some clarity on that. This is me, how I would dig into different things, right? So I knew of Buddhists and Muslims and people of different religions that were doing a lot of stuff that in my religion looked like it's wrong, it's evil, that's the devil deceiving them. They're nicer than Christians I know. They're doing more for the environment and even people one-on-one than I'd ever seen a lot of Christians. They're more family-oriented. They stick by each other. You know what I mean? So that was very confusing to me, is how is that able to function if it's wrong? I don't get it. I needed to know what's right and wrong. Don't tell me that there's a gray area, or, hey, man, people can be affected just by their belief. So it's no. It's either this is right or it's wrong. That's how I was coming at it. I didn't understand this whole blending of shit, and people are able to do things almost just based on their own inner power. So then I started taking a look at scripture and was looking at, man, Jesus only hung out, according to this, for 3 years in his full, this is who I am, right? The coming out, like, this is who I am. I want to help people and blah, blah, right? It was only 3 years. We got ministers today that they've had ministries way longer than Jesus. And in my opinion, and from what I've seen, have done way less. So when I started looking at Jesus going like this, I started looking at a lot of verses that were showing that he kept pointing at us with our responsibility, and the power is in us. The kingdom is in you. Greater works will you do than me, because I'm bouncing. So you're going to do more than me if you believe. What? Believe? How new agey could that sound at a time like that, when, like, in our day, everything is all the faith and energy goes into whoever's preaching and talking to us. It's not given to us like, no, you're walking around with power in you. So whatever you do, it affects people in all these different ways. That's what makes me, at the point I'm at now, reading something like what you wrote in the lounge, it makes me go, yeah. I mean, I think that they were very positively affected. I mean, Solo was shot up and almost died. That was his thing. He was basically gunned down and survived that shit. Supposedly, the game was 50 Cent, many people that don't go full on into the quote unquote Christian ministry, but dudes like that were always talking to Solo and Chill behind the scenes. These guys have stories about major artists that would be calling them up middle of the night, like the wildest shit that you would go, what? And would never give them credit. Would never, not to name drop too much, but Snoop Dogg, just going to throw that out there. There's people that know Solo and Chill that may not show up to the funeral, and that had their lives saved in crazy situations because they call these dudes up, and because they had what we all kind of know of in the hood as praying moms. a praying grandma, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's faith in something has done a lot of something for people. It really has. It's just I am such a like a fucking researcher and a digger. Like I want bigger answers. You know what I mean? Like I can't stay at a level of, oh no, this is good. This is good right now. We go to church, we pray, we're good to people, we take care of, that's fine. The afterlife will take care of itself, blah, blah. This is why. Some of my struggle is I don't like being caught not knowing something. So when I'm in a certain group, like in the Christian world, when I was in that and people were fine with just those little answers, it was cool, but I didn't reside there. I was always out around kids and people that had, what about this? What about this? And I didn't like feeling corny or going like, well, God will do it. Or, well, you just don't understand. No. I wanted to have the answers for them. So when I never did, it made me dig more. And that's what took me down a path that was more like a, it's been a struggle for me throughout these years. There really isn't a piece in it the more you start uncovering stuff, right? It's been hard for me to backpedal and just ease into life when I feel like I know all this crazy shit that's bombarding my brain and not helping me. And people could go like this, how's that for you? Why don't you settle into relaxing and not needing to know everything? So then you'll fucking be okay. Because there are people that certain answers are enough. And I used to knock those people. I'm not like that anymore, but I can't change who I am. You know what I mean? I'm still on this journey trying to search for some kind of balance so that I even feel the need to stay on this fucking planet the way that it is. These guys, of course, you get shot at point blank range and then this nigga chill, got his group and they went out, gunned down these niggas. I mean, it was like the wild shit that's like in a movie, bro. And then Solo is changed. His mom was praying for him, all this stuff she knew. And it's that whole thing, you're about to die. Like, God, if you save me, I'm yours. There's people that have prayed that and died. I mean, I got friends that were in the military and their buddy that they were like a me and cookbook buddies, fucking out there in war and literally just finished talking because they're together and he gets shot in the head or gets shot. And then I've heard multiple stories like this from some buddies of mine in the military. They're praying. These guys that I know were Christians praying over their brother who dies in their arms. You know what I mean? There's so many different stories. And then it's like, well, what did that do for them and their faith moving on? It's like, it's such a hard thing. So I could go on and on about this. There's no answer that I can even give. This is just my perspective and feelings from that. But I will say, I agree with you that what they believed and what they did at that time, not only did it benefit them, it touched hundreds of thousands, dude. I mean, maybe even millions throughout those years because of their life choices and going against the grain and helping other brothers that were, gang banging and hurt. They did so much based on their belief strictly.
Think about
and what that moved them to,
Yeah, think about the possibility of how many lives they saved.
Yeah.
It's
got out of
crazy.
Yeah. Cook, what's your
so going back to what you said, first of all, you gave basically like half of what's called Pascal's wager, which is what Christians usually use when they're witnessing. They say, what if I'm right and you're wrong? Then you're going to go to hell. But what if you're right and I'm wrong? I didn't lose anything. I lived a good life. I'm happy. I'm good, blah, blah, blah. And that's actually true. Yeah. I mean, to a degree. I think the initial thing that you said, and this is no shade on Mr. Solo or what they probably what they've affected in people's lives, but I think when you have your personal beliefs and it changes your life, it's facts that millions of people this has happened to, where they have some, whatever small or big experience that changes them drastically, or over time they change based on whatever belief they have, whether it's real or not. It can be a more beneficial thing for them personally. The only, and this is not, again, this is now, we're venturing away from gospel gangsters and just talking here about the point that you brought up. So for me, the problem that I have is that it never is just your beliefs in a box just for you that changes your life and now you're a better person to other people. We're all coming from a Christian background, so this is where I'm going to speak to. We see historically, but even just in our country, the way that Christianity or Christians impose their beliefs and their viewpoints on other people, whether that be just through the things they say publicly or through the way they push through legislation or different things that subjugates other people, that and then they cry that this is an attack against religion, or you're attacking my Christianity, when people are just struggling for their own equality.
Yep.
And they so that goes beyond my beliefs change me and I'm doing great. It's almost never true that you just are in a little vacuum, you do great, and your belief system doesn't affect someone else in a negative way. You understand what I'm saying? Because they'll cry freedom of religion, but what they really mean is freedom of Christianity. Because the second a Hindu wants that same freedom of religion, yep, or a Muslim wants that same freedom of religion, nah, we ain't having that.
Not up in here. Nope.
And then they always go to, this is a Christian nation built on Christian, and it's not. It's a lie. Aaron, you are a teacher, so you can back me up on this.
I'll back you up on all this, Cook.
Yes, there was Christians that were writing the freaking Constitution, but they were not writing a Christian document. And I told Nesto this in a previous episode. It's like even Thomas Jefferson himself took all the miraculous claims and made his own Bible, took all the miraculous claims out because he thought it was all bullshit. So my perspective is that people can believe in just about anything that can turn them on a positive path. We talked about this recently on the episode, I think, about belief, where it's like people believe in Reiki and in fucking sage and crystals and all that. And it can actually benefit you because there is something in our brains that can come alive and something can happen when we believe, when we have some sort of a faith in something. Now, going back to Mr. Solo, this is what I'll say. I know about the praying mama, the praying grandma. I know that that's a very common thing. So, the culture that you're raised in is usually going to inform which choice you would make in a scenario like that. Like if his praying mama was someone who prayed to Allah his whole life, then when he got shot up, he would have got up from that bed and put a bow tie on and said, praise be Allah. And that's just the truth. And you can look at it like every person who claims to have had a near-death experience, like if they're Christian, they see Jesus. But if they're Muslim or there's something else, they see Muhammad or Allah. They just see what's in their brain based on their culture and what, So what I'm saying is I do agree that you can have a dramatic change in your life based on something that you now believe. For sure. I totally agree with that. Whether it's true or not, now that's where it crosses over for me. That's, to me, what this whole show is about. The reason why we're doing that is like we're searching for what's really real. Me personally, and Nesto, he can speak for himself, but me personally, I came from indoctrination, not even given a choice of like, is there other options out there, which is natural. I understand. That's what we do. We raise our kids to believe what we believe and be the way we are. That's just that's normal. And so I'm not mad about it, but I am saying I came from that. And then as the world opened up to me and as I started having the questions, my beliefs began to change. You know what I'm saying? But in a lot of ways, things got actually better for me leaving my Christian beliefs. In a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, they're the same. And the reason why is because it's me. I do the shit. You know, we talked about this as well as a faith without works is dead. Really, you're doing some shit. And if you believe, you get yourself hyped up and pumped, you're motivated. I believe I could do it. And then you go do it. It's the doing it that gets you the thing, not the faith part of it. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So that's my take on it. But overall, to answer that specific question, yes, belief can change a person, but I think there's always some harm in it. Almost always, maybe not always, but there's always some level of something that ends up happening based on, you know, your belief. If you're going out there, you know what I mean? Even if it's just a word you say and you think because you're spitting what the Bible says that you're now holy or being some sort of a encouragement, and you don't realize how condescending or arrogant you are or how hurtful your words actually are because you feel like you got God's word in your mouth and you're actually hurting people with it. So yes, I agree, but also that caveat that most of the time it doesn't just stay your personal belief that just did you good. You know what I mean? It spills out into others. So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, and Cook, a lot of, I'll back you up on all that. And especially some of those things that you stated really tie into my story and how my ideals have been and my beliefs have been formed because of some of the things.
Right. Because some of the things I said, is that what you said?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I think, again, this is something else I've said already on this podcast is that, I think a lot of the good that we have become, that we attribute to being a Christian or being religious or being whatever, we're not really being totally honest, because just as humans and just having like the inner like feeling or ability to just be like, that's not right, I'm not doing that anymore, and then just putting the label of Christian on it, it's not always honest. So I'll give you an example. Basically, homosexuals. A lot of church people now are kind of saying like, no, we love, you know, it's all good, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really what their Bible teaches. Let's be honest. We have to be honest. So it's not like that book now made them have a better opinion about another human's actual life. It's the humanity in them and the society that's changing. It's like, I can't be that way anymore. Or maybe they genuinely see it, or maybe they just go like, well, life ain't like that no more, so I'm just going to keep my viewpoint hidden. But if they genuinely say, no, I'm cool with that person, they can do whatever they want and they're free to love who they want, that's in contradiction to what the Bible says. Or they hide it in their heart and they really agree with the Bible, which is just as wicked, because they really have a negative and a lesser than viewpoint of that person. And that's just one example. So that's where I find problems with these kind of things.
But then there's a side that, you know, from the Bible, multiple places where it tells us to be led by the Spirit, right? Be spirit-led, your spirit, the Spirit in you, even the Holy Spirit, whatever, versus whatever's going on in the day or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to look at it like, you know, it's so interesting that there was no Bible back when that was even written. These were letters of encouragement to people. There was no societal box that everybody had to go into off of Christianity. You know, when Jesus died and everybody was wilding out, and they all met in that house in the upper room, and Christianity was quote unquote formed, they didn't name themselves that. They were called that by outsiders because they talked like Jesus and that group of people. It's like, those are those Christians. It was like a slanderous thing. Now it's a mark of, it's just like that one meme that I put up, you know, of Jesus going, why are they so hardcore about crosses? Like, that always bugged me too. That's like wearing around your neck a damn what's that? The chair that fucking kills you in the
electric
jails.
Chair?
Yeah,
electric
why not
chair.
wear that? I mean, that, you know, we've turned it into all this spooky stuff because we go by symbols and we need, you know, people. But this is all generational, bro.
Yeah.
Because you know, if we're living in a different society, we're in a different society. Those words, I don't know nothing about farming. There's a gang of shit written about farming. Now, if we keep on making examples about farming to a group of people that don't know about farming, what the fuck are we doing? That's what always, you know, through the evolution of Christianity through the years with ministers and sermons and church, it seemed like, why is everyone so stuck on a time period? How are we supposed to live life today? How do we relate to the day that we're in? It's so crazy because in their day, they weren't talking about shit that was like 900 years. That's why supposedly there was a lot of attack against Jesus, because they were like, are you coming against Moses' teachings? He's like, no, I'm just making a new way. And he didn't stay around long enough to get that hung up to where he was like, he's the new pope. He bounced. That's in favor of, you know, me saying this, in favor of the Christian teachings that most Christians don't even go by. You know, just like we talked about last week, this damn book was put together 300 years after the activities in the book. So what were these people doing without a damn book? They were living like we are living now, trying to take care of each other, help each other, just be good. If that's the truth of what was really going on, it wasn't until Constantine and the force of everything to put everything in this box and murder off all the Christians that were meeting in homes and shit like that anyway. You know what I mean? This type of stuff is what bugs me and has for so long, that most Christians don't even know their true heritage. They don't know where they come from. They don't know none of that. They get a book, they listen to a minister, and that is their life. They'll pay that church and they'll go on from little pieces that are read to them, but that is not even actual Christianity. If you look at authentic Christianity, I mean, Cook, just like you said, that fucking book talks about slavery and the wildest shit. So if you were gonna go by the Bible, nigga, let alone how many other books that were taken out of it, and it wasn't even pieced together by Christians. Come on. When I talk to Christians and I'm not even wildly frustrated like I am like this, I'm just trying to tell them, dude, probably the best thing is to go by your heart, spirit, not just shit that's like bombarding your mind from a religious standpoint. Think about your day-to-day life. There's too many contradictions for you to be dogmatic about one way and one thing. It really is. But if you want to live in peace and love, just do that, dude. And then have discussions, you know, talk with people, move forward. But when you try to, no, this is it. This is how, like, anyone nowadays that has the internet can give you an entirely different viewpoint on whatever the fucking thing is that you say is the right way about any topic. Any topic. How scary is that now?
Yeah.
No matter who you are, scientists. Oh, there's a bunch of different scientists. Some are saying this, some are saying that. So what's the truth?
Yeah.
Every politicians, I guess math is probably the only thing that's really like, nigga, if these are the actual numbers, they can only equate to this. So that's the end of it. Everything else, bro, it seems like it's really so like left to your own judgment. What almost like what works for you?
Yeah.
What fucking works for you? To an extent.
Doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think so.
If I can, okay.
Jump in. No. I was gonna pass to you anyway.
Okay, if I can bridge kind of a couple things both you guys are saying, kind of in a, it's funny because you guys have me on right now. It's like everything you're saying is just like, I can jump from that point and that point because everything's just, it all ties into my story. You know, gotta work. No, so I think, to Nestor's point, we really need the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Newer Testament. What are we doing? This is, and to your point too, and I know hip hop, whatever they, you know, people mention the Bible here and there. Macklemore has a line something about, you know, in his book, or in one of his songs that Cook, you're talking about homosexuality. It's like, why are we following something in a book that was written this many years ago? You know what I mean? And my issue with that, to your point, Cook, and to your point, Nesto, is that book has been transcribed. When you talk to, especially that issue, homosexuality, which I want to get into a little bit, under my studies, and I know you guys have gone way deeper than I ever have in all of this. So always correct me if I'm wrong. Plus also being in combat sports for all my life, CTE, you know what I mean? But I might miss a couple of things and forget some stuff. But, you know, that word for homosexuality didn't even exist then in a lot of forms. You know what I mean? So there's definitely some issues there with the Bible. And I think, that's to your point, sometimes you have to pick and choose. But I feel like a lot of Christians do that in a very strange way. So, for example, I was born and raised Irish Catholic. Okay, you know, I came into a big family. My mom was one of 5, and my dad was one of 2. You know what I mean? Like, they really believed in all of those teachings to an extent. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, and I had a lot of trauma growing up, and I had a very traumatic incident in high school that really set my beliefs in stone. You know what I mean? Into that, but I don't know if I want to follow Nestle and start crying though. But
bro, tell it, yeah, please, man.
No, whatever you want, bro. Whatever you feel.
Well, let's circle back to it. I want to get into.
Why are you trying to make us cry, Nestle? Damn, bro.
Because
bro, don't make me cry.
This is the platform for it.
I get emotional because it's that important to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did enjoy being Catholic because it's very regimented. I've always been a very disciplined guy. Here's the rule. Boom, boom, boom. Got it. Following it. Done. The issue is humans aren't perfect, and I have a lot of issues with religion, of how the hypocrisy happens. And I get it. We're not perfect. We're trying to follow a perfect example, and we're always going to fall short. And that's okay as long as you realize that and are honest about that and move forward with that in mind, as opposed to what a lot of Christians do and a lot of religious people, period, which is they are hypocritical and will say they're doing things in God's name, and you're like, no way. You know what I mean? And so go back. You brought up the homosexual issue. I stayed very involved in the Catholic Church for many, many years. Okay? When I moved to California, and for those that haven't listened to the other podcasts I've been on, I'm just a small town kid from Iowa. You know what I mean? That I'm out here now, and you know, there's a lot in my growing up that has made me who I am. But out here in 2001, you know, not too long after that, you know, we had Prop 8, which was the equality in marriage prop. And so I could no longer, I think tithing is important in this sense. Church is giving you a service. And if you can afford to pay for that, I was receiving something. I was receiving a service. I had no problem giving my money to them. Here's where I had the problem. When they were taking that money and putting it into the pockets of people that were making legislation to make it not okay for my buddies to get married. When I had 10 starving kids in my classroom every freaking day, and that money could have fed them, and you're choosing this over those kids, fuck you. That's not what JC taught. That's not what you should be doing as Christians. You are wrong. And that's me personally, again, whatever. But I was very adamant about that. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. You know what I mean? And the hypocrisy of that really bothered me was all these people who were so adamant about that's wrong. It says it in the Bible, that's wrong. Okay, I don't disagree with that point. These people that are yelling at me about this, hey, didn't you get divorced? Wait, so it's okay for you to be divorced and not follow the teaching, but they can't follow. I cannot deal with that kind of hypocrisy.
Yeah, bro, because they divorced the woman, bro. They divorced the woman, so it's cool, man. It's all good.
Don't get me fired up. I'll be yelling at you guys.
I mean, you know.
I know.
But I do in my heart, and I prayed about it, and I just felt like God's telling me, there's no way that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, there's it made no sense to me, especially especially being in teaching and involved with kids and coaching my whole life. When you see kids that have been abused, and I grew up in, I had a lot of my childhood was amazing, and I have great parents. However, I had a very traumatic childhood, and it was not good. And I tell my wife stories from when I was growing up and even in college, and she always go, how are you not dead or in jail? The Lord gave me a great guardian angel. That's the only way I can explain it. You know what I mean? But when those people are saying these things, and I'm watching these kids in a quote unquote traditional family with mom and dad that are being abused, and then I've got my buddies that are, husband and are phenomenal parents and love their kid, and you at the church go, that's okay to beat that kid, and because they're a traditional family, but that's because they're both men. Again, that's hypocritical. They are great parents. Let them raise that kid. You think there's going to be an issue there because a guy or a girl and a girl? Like, you've got to mind like that. How does that make sense to anybody? I could not. I had to leave the church because of it. And at that point, as so many people get at me because I've been that guy, it's both you guys. Super important church. People are following you. You are setting an example. And they're like, oh, you lost your faith. Oh, no. I felt at that point, my faith was stronger than it had ever been. And I had to then take it upon myself to dig deeper into my Bible study, to find other people that I could get into small groups with and have real discussions with. And it wasn't there's some guy up there talking and I'm, listening to him. It was a very inclusive thing where we're actually what you guys are doing now, trying to find the truth. And I will tell you too, that was Catholic Church at that time. And I did spend time at very different churches, Christian churches. When I went here, there's a big Filipino church that we went to, which is, it was very different for me. We used to always go to Rock Out Church, I called it, or,
Oh, yeah.
And they're loving Jesus, and it's awesome, bro. And they're rocking out, and those were my people for sure, when we went out on tour and whatever. But to have all those different experiences, see everybody's viewpoint, I think was very important for me at that time. But I had seen so much hypocrisy, and I'd seen so many people. Again, we're not perfect, and we're going to make mistakes. That's fine. I have no issue with that. But when you can admit it's a mistake, and you then go the exact opposite, go, I did this because Christ told me to, and that God teaches this, I couldn't be around it anymore, and I had to bounce.
Yeah. Wow.
So, again, you said a lot, so I'll try to.
Yes, sir.
I think what I'll say is this. I'll say so I obviously I can see, that you are a believer, though you're still, if you've seen all of these things and so many things attributed to God, how do you settle it in your own brain? A question like, if there's so much confusion about it, why does God not clear it up? Like you mentioned, a newer testament. Well, who's writing that? And why would God come? Why, if Jesus is everything he said he was and all the things he claimed and all this and that and the other, why did he come in a time when there's no pictures, no video, not even writing yet, not, no books, no nothing, and we're just expected to not only believe that all those miraculous claims are true when none of them happen now, and then we're also supposed to somehow decipher it and know God's will for us when he's not. What the fuck? Explain it to us. So that's where I also feel like, me personally, that it's not a divine book or whatever. It's a collection of people writing things down that are trying to understand the world that they find themselves in, and equating a lot of stuff to the concept of God that they have made up. And it's kind of like, I think you said something about that earlier, Nesta, where a lot of those things can just make you sort of feel better, or I think it was you, just these steps, I'm good, cool. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know why there's a big bright ball in the sky that makes me really hot, but once I figure out, we'll call that God or we'll call it whatever, then I feel okay, you know, like my mind can relax. I know now I'm saying a lot, but I'm gonna turn it back to you, Aaron. Like, how do you settle that in your own mind? That question, like, why would you leave us tripping down here like this? Why is there even a need for a Really Though podcast where we have to search for what's really real? If you are really real, why don't you let us know? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you guys both know the canned answer is free. He gives free will. And I don't, okay, whatever, you know, but you guys both know, I bet you guys can list 50 people that you would ask that same question that would give you that answer right now, right? From your,
sure,
of course. So that,
but let me say this. What does free will have to do with his responsibility to communicate to us? Because we can have free will, and we can discuss if free will is even a thing, because I don't necessarily believe free will is real. Right. I don't think any Christian can honestly be intellectually honest and say that the God in the form of the Bible exists and they have free will. It's not true, in my opinion. But that's a separate issue from God himself, the fucking master of the universe. The guy who created this place is so aloof and fucking in the corners all the time and hiding and allowing so much terrible shit, like Nesto said, to go on in his name, and even out of his name. He does nothing to stop the rapings, the child abuse, the this, you know. Matter of fact, he created it. So you see what I'm saying? Like, so how free will is one thing, great, but you're right. It's a canned reason that helps people just, again, like, that the sun, that must just be God. Like, just put it in your brain so I can not think about it. But it's you know, it's a separate issue, because if we had, saying we do have free will, just assuming, to choose to believe him is a separate issue. Then is he showing us who the hell he is? Is he giving us the thing to see besides a book that we can't even, you know, tell me who wrote the Gospels? We can't. They don't know. Just because it says Matthew, every biblical scholar will tell you they have no idea who wrote that book. So we can't, you know, that's what we're expected to just figure out all of this shit.
Yeah. And you said the master of the universe. Does that mean Jesus was He-Man? Because
and the devil is Skeletor.
Yeah. What I was going to get to was that's the canned reaction, which I never like any of those. You know what I mean? Like, you're like that. And you guys have touched on this before. The minister or whoever told us to say this, you know, or told us to say that.
Yeah.
I never bought it. Always read as bullshit to me. It just never was honest. So for me personally, it's been my personal experience, and I can tell you a ton of stories. I think I touch on two that I'm just a small town kid from Iowa. I'm not, but I can't explain these in any other way. But I think it's important what you guys are doing, and what I've always done doesn't mean I don't question it. Doesn't mean I don't ask why, but I tell you, like I said, like I had a lot of trauma as a child. You know, I was very abused as a kid, and it's easy to go, come on, God, really? Like, you're gonna do me like this? And why would I ever believe? Why would I ever believe in somebody that allowed me to be treated that way? I mean, and that's easy to bail on. I really think it is, and I could have easily gone that route. You know, there were people in my church that very much, you know, I'm definitely takes a village to raise. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to raise whatever. I was definitely that. My parents were very hardworking people. They were not always, you know, at my wrestling matches, my football games, whatever. Rarely, maybe 2 times in my whole high school career. You know what I mean? My little wrestling, whatever. But they're very, very hardworking. That was the gift they gave me, is they gave me my work ethic, which is important. I can't touch on that, you know, in higher day. But with that being said, it would have been real easy to bail. People in the church did help raise me, which I did appreciate. They're very good people. You know, especially small town Iowa, everybody knows everybody's business. That a lot of that was good. they didn't know I was getting abused. You know, that would have been a little bit helpful. But, and, you know, Cook, you talked about being in therapy, and you know, as well as anybody that is done mental health stuff, like we all carry this baggage with us. Everything that's happened, you talked, and again, I haven't got through your whole story yet on the pod, but you talked about, you know, one minister, that the stuff that he told you and the way he made you feel, you carry that shit with you forever. It just the way things go. So I had all that with me. And I will tell you, and again, I've only probably told this story from maybe 2 or 3 people in my whole life. You know, there was a point when I was 17 or 18 years old. I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school. And I was done, man. I was like, this life is not working for me. And I loaded a shotgun, put it to my head. I thought it was game over, you know, and there was nothing that was going to change my mind. And I literally heard a voice tell me, no, I have other plans for you. And emotional, because what do you do with that? You know what I mean? Like that's amazing. But it's a lot of weight to carry too. You know, you gotta take that. You know, if you're wired the way I am, you now have a responsibility. You know? And again, you can say I was crazy, or I'm, you know, my brain, you know, and when a default, there's probably a million other ways that you can explain that. But the only way I could explain it was the Spirit of God was talking to me. That's the only explanation I can come up with. And I'm only here today because of it. And so when you think about all the negative and all the, you know, I don't have all those answers. I just don't. I'm not smart enough. But what I do know is personally, my life was saved. And again, God's the only reason I can explain that. And, you know, and throughout my life, this has been a huge reoccurring issue for me, which is things will come up and things will be fixed or become better, and there's no explanation. So, you know, how do you look at that? So, for example, another quick story is, you know, I coached wrestling for over 20 years. And, you know, I was coaching this young man who, you know, a bit of a knucklehead and whatever, but this kid was even like, he had some personal baggage himself, even to one point where, like, you know, my kids have always been, our goals of our program have always been, be a good person, be a good wrestler. In that order, because without the first two, the other one's never going to happen. You don't have the grades. If you're always in trouble, if you're running the streets, you'll never be a great wrestler. God might have gifted you the ability, but you will never, you know, get to where you need to be because of those other issues. And a kid who, like in an off-season tournament, you know, he went to the opposing coach. He was upset he lost. Went to the opposing coach. You know, gave her both a female coach gave her both the middle fingers and told her to F off. And I was like, my kids don't act like that. And I grabbed that kid up by the arm and we went outside and had a long talk. You know, and he went back and apologized to her. But this is the kind of kid that he was. You know, he was a very angry and whatever. But he, deep down, he was a great kid, funny and whatever. But his senior year, his last match to get to state, he's throttling this kid that scores like 7-2. And they out of bounds. And as he's taking this kid down out of bounds, they go over, because he has so much power. This kid's so strong and so explosive. Goes over. He lands, and the other guy lands on his neck. He breaks his neck and is paralyzed instantly. And I'm sitting next to this kid, holding his hand, telling him, and it was weird. And again, you guys have had these issues or these things happen in your life. There was no question in my mind this kid was going to be okay. He's going to walk again. He's going to be fine. How is that even possible? You know what I mean? Like, I should have been super panicked. This kid's telling me, Coach, I can't feel my feet. I can't feel anything, Coach. And, you know, the tears are starting to come, and I've got to call his mom. And that's a tough call to make. Hey, we've got your son here. You know, it's going to be okay. We're getting in the ambulance. And they teach you, you're not supposed to say that, you know, because if it doesn't end up okay. So we've got over 300 people praying for this kid. This kid's nice. Surgery, we get to the hospital, and I ride with him in the ambulance, everything, man. My other coaches take care of the rest of the tournament. and this kid's, dreams are crushed and whatever. But we get there and they're going to surgery, and they want my singlet off, and he was just like, whatever you do, just don't cut my singlet off. Like that was he's so proud of that singlet and what he had accomplished wearing that thing in the last year. His senior year really turned it around. But fast forward it very quickly. I don't want to, take a ton of time, but, I homeschooled that kid. I went to the hospital every day. But all these people praying for him. That kid's walking around normal now. You know what I mean? Like, completely paralyzed from the neck down, was never supposed to walk again. He even went back into wrestling in college, and the doctor wouldn't clear him because he had the hardware holding it together. They said, you can't compete. But in the room, he was beating the kids that were, state qualifiers the year before. And I mean, and again, that's just this is all my personal stuff. Just viewpoint from what I saw. But without those 300 people praying for this kid, does that happen? I don't believe so. But again, if somebody else comes in and says, well, this was because of this or that, but when the doctors can't explain it, what else do you have? You know what I mean? So,
right.
Again, I've got millions of them. I don't want to take up the whole podcast, but I can tell you just these stories that keep repeating, and there's none of this should have happened. You know what I mean? Right. He shouldn't be walking, I shouldn't be here today. But all these things happen, and without my faith, I don't see how they happen, and I don't know how I make those connections for those kids or the people in my life that lead to some of these things.
Right. I want to, can I chime in here?
Please.
That's a tough one too, because I've got those two. Like I've got those two, and me and Cook have talked about it, a little bit. And we were going to dedicate. There's a episode, and it might be like a multiple parter that we were going to dive into, talking about prayers answered, healing, like just different things that are phenomenons that people can attribute to one thing and then can be quote unquote disproven by somebody else. Now, this is the unique thing about personal experience. Whenever you experience something personal, it's tough for you to take someone on the outside's like definition of what that is to you. You know what I mean? That's how people are like, don't tell me, I felt it, I know, right? And in the quote unquote conspiracy world, like UFOs and all that shit, it seems like those people would be easier to be Christians than anybody outside, because it's the same type of group. They're witnessing things, they've seen things, they've felt things, they've gone through stuff, and there's a gang of people that are like, no, you didn't, or explain it as something else. Now, a couple things I want to say real quick. Me and Cook were also talking about recently the disclosure that's been going on with the government with a lot of natural phenomenons, or not natural, but supernatural phenomenons. And at a time when we're all locked up and, there's not like the free day-to-day life activities that people are usually going through. Now you're saying yes to this. Yes, that was right. Yes. I mean, it opens a lot of doors, which I believe are connected to Christianity, the Bible, where we really come from, like all of that stuff. Because people, by our nature, misinterpret things that they've seen or witnessed or heard, right? I remember hearing, this was like a good analogy that was given to me as like a little story that I would give to the youth group when I was a youth pastor. And we played this game called Telephone. And we get in a circle, and each person, like I'd make up a phrase or a sentence. Then each person, the first person would whisper that to the next person. Then it would go all the way around. And by the time it came back, then we let the last person say out loud what was said to you. And the sentence was always something crazy. People would laugh. And then there's times when we got real serious about it. Like, no. don't be changing it, because some kids would like play around and change it. It was like, no. What did you hear, right? And still, the translation was completely different. What is it, and I've heard this many times too, as a modern day example, people in a car accident and witnesses all around, police interview each person, and they all saw something different. It's the same thing I tease when I talk about people that go see a movie and they come back and describe it. And it's like, nigga, what did you see? That's not even, there's things that we witness that we really didn't witness. It's like our brains interpret certain things, right? When it comes to healing, that's a very different thing, because I've heard of some of the wildest stories, dude, that would be like, it just sounds like magic, But when I was in the Christian world, it made sense to me. And my frustration was, how come we're not seeing that here in America more? So this is what I learned throughout my time, is just because I ain't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening. That's not a legitimate thing to go, I haven't seen it. Fuck you. E. Green is good enough a person to say he's seen a UFO. It doesn't matter who else hasn't. Right. He's seen it. So you can't, you know what I mean? So each person with their individual experience can witness or feel something and can attribute it to whatever they want. The hard part about a lot of this for me, and maybe somewhat for Cookbook, is the side of, why isn't there someone clearly making a clear distinction going, that was me? So we've got things happening on the planet. Everybody's describing them in different ways based on their group, whatever they've grown up in. Native Americans, think about all the different amazing ideas and references they have from animals and nature, and they attribute certain things that they've seen and been passed down throughout the years. And we would listen to it and go, that sounds like Greek mythology. A dragon? What the fuck are you talking about? Turning into an there's a lot of things that, and they use psychedelics. A lot of them have grown up on that. That's something that I absolutely have to dive into on this program, because just like what weed does to your body, there's psychedelics. There's a lot of different things that people claim have opened them up to another portal, another world, another whatever. Regardless what we believe about this planet, are we in a simulation, whatever it's whatever. There's so many different things and ideas that can even seem legitimate nowadays, because we've got testimonies from so many different people that can verify a lot of shit, right? I've witnessed personal healings. I've seen it. But again, when it comes down to who did it, who's taking the
credit,
the claim to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how, you've probably heard the example of, there's two football teams that are playing against each other, and on both teams there's Christians. There's Christians sprinkled around everywhere. Well, they're both praying to the same God for a success, a win. Somebody's going to lose that game. Christians playing against Christians, those games don't end up in ties. That's not how this works. Somebody loses. So then the losers don't get the microphone. What is said in the locker room? What happened? Like, you know what I mean? What's the conversation? How did God let them down, but then decided to go with someone else? Some of this, for me, again, I'm only speaking from my personal ideas or what I've been trying to work out from this, because I've had these questions that hit me. So I'm like, how would I respond to that? Like, what, when I was defending God, those days of trying to defend God. Okay, so then it was like this. Well, maybe it's the fact that God's not really, quote unquote, listening to everybody's prayers. Maybe it's how, when God said, I'm going to leave you the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is in everyone. So it's like the communication portal that we have, almost like our phones. That's our way to connect to all the information in the world. Just because we're not talking to Steve Jobs or whoever created our Apple phone, we're still communicating with the device that's similar giving us information. So, maybe that's what the Holy Spirit is. And everybody that's praying to this one God, they don't even realize that what they're doing is they're praying to the portal that's in them, that's giving them the strength and the power. Maybe it's we have way more responsibility than a God that's like Santa Claus overseeing everything and pushing buttons and doing like a Wizard of Oz thing. Maybe that's not what God is. Jesus himself said God is a spirit. And when you worship in spirit and truth. So maybe it's not a dude. Maybe it's not like that. Maybe it's not one guy listening to everybody. Maybe we have more power than we realize. Maybe the whole Jesus thing of, again, like I said earlier, if you believe, then what I did, you'll do the same thing, because that's the energy that's floating around. And that's how powerful belief is. That's you doing it. Maybe like there's some scriptures that say we are gods. We are gods. So I'm not sitting on a throne determining who dies and who lives. Maybe that's not a God thing. Maybe God is like an advanced form of us. We don't fucking know, dude, because no one is giving us these flat out answers. But the thing is, a lot of people lean towards peace, love, let's take care of each other, like by nature. You almost have to be trained to be evil and horrible and negative at a young age for that to be your cycle of thinking. There's always something going against it. Like it or not, Hitler was a fucking artist, and I don't know how evil you have to be a fucking artist. There was creativity in him at one point, and then he was let off. I mean, nobody really wants to dive into his story because we just look at how horrible he was and what he ended up doing, right?
Yeah.
But he was a baby at one point. This nigga was a baby. So all of this stuff, dude, all of this stuff that there is no answer for, and people find comfort within their answer. I am one who believes in miracles. I believe that shit. I've seen some stuff happen to other people, and I've witnessed personal stuff myself in Jesus' name. Again, maybe it was the energy of faith that's way stronger than what we realize. It's not about an English name translated from a Jewish word from years ago. Maybe it's literally about what's in you coming out. Maybe we are superheroes, and since we're not we don't know it, all we do, it's almost like the Avengers. Imagine the world was falling and Thanos was doing what he was doing, and these niggas just all sat in a building and listened to fucking Tony Stark just talk from the pulpit. And it's like, nigga, save the world. You guys got powers. And all of them are like, no, we just want to hear him talk. He's funny. He makes good points. He's got punchlines. And we just want to hang out. Then we're going to go eat. And God will take care of it. I mean, there's, somebody, you are gods. Get out there and fucking save us. Maybe it's some shit like that. You know what I mean? I honestly, again, have no idea, because the anger side of me that could almost shut down any Christian is those hard questions of, what about the little girl whose dad rapes her every night and she prays to God that he won't do that to her every night? How is God helping somebody win the Super Bowl and he's ignoring this girl? And there's hundreds of thousands of girls like this, and boys, and all kinds of other shit going on, that if God can do anything, then that God is fucking psychotic. That sounds like the devil. So either he doesn't have all those powers, or, you know what I mean? Like, what are we dealing with here then?
Yeah, and that goes back to the argument that's always brought up is, if he exists, why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people? You know what I mean? Like that argument, what you're saying, is a very simplified version.
Yeah. And there's that scripture that I used to bring up when people would bring that up. The sun shines on the just as well as the unjust. So that's the sun's orbit. That has fucking nothing. That's like life. That's like if you blamed me for, I don't know, to like some shit that I really don't have anything to deal with, but I was at a place at a certain time or something. You know what I mean? Like it's almost, if we look at it in practical sense, you can turn anyone into a god. If we in our technology visited another planet, right? And we found a primitive species that was like some little animal people or something, like, you know, just something that we were like, oh my God, dude, they're kind of like monkeys, like the monkeys we have on Earth. Imagine if we spliced them with our DNA. We should try that shit. And we had like all the technology and shit to mix together, and we did it and bounced and said we're going to come back in 2,000 years and see, you know, or even a couple years later and see how they had evolved. And we come back and they've made TV and spaceships, and like, wow, it's like, oh my God.
So that monkey's the monkey that's running out and grabbing kids and trying to haul off on the it's like,
yeah,
that's where that
on
monkey
the motorcycle.
No,
the one that drives motorcycles and kidnaps kids.
Yeah, dude.
Well, shit, Aaron, first thing I'll say is, bro, we love you, and I am actually extremely glad, no matter why you did it, that you decided not to pull that trigger, bro, because I think the planet definitely benefits from having you a part of it. So that's the first thing I'll say. And the second thing I'll say is, I'm not going to pick apart any of your arguments or ask any questions, because I love you. And it's like, you know, there's plenty more episodes where I can get into some of the reasons why I think certain things happen and certain things don't. But to me, your heartfelt story is not the place for me to. And plus, Nestor just said a lot of stuff real beautifully that I appreciate. And
he's got away with words, doesn't he?
Yeah, nice, great, bro.
In my damn confusion.
No.
I will say too, like I know you understand this. I don't know if the listeners do. Like, I'm not here trying to change either of you two. Like,
and vice versa.
Back to church right now. Like, I don't church, man. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe in religion because it fails so much. You know what I mean? So I'm not here to say any of that stuff. This is just my experience. This is what works for me. I believe, and it's helped me in my life. Mm-hmm. If you guys aren't at that point now and you're questioning things, and don't think that I'm on the same path as you guys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always questioning why this, why that. Just my answers have come out different. That's all. And then Cook, I appreciate what you said. I mean, that means a lot.
Yeah. And we're, you know, me and Nestor talk about this all the time. We're pretty sure that we're never going to actually find a lot of these answers. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, unless it depends. I mean, another thing we always say is, I genuinely hope in our lifetime some wild ass shit happens. Like the fact that, you know, the UFO videos were confirmed and shit like that. Please let the skies open up and ships come. I don't even care if it's war. I just want to see something real, bro.
You're looking for some crazy stuff. Have you looked outside lately, bro? It's a lot.
Yeah.
Right now.
No, it's pretty wild, bro.
This is the time it's coming. Yeah.
Right. Well, we could venture off into a lot of stuff, even with just that last sentence that you said, my brother. But we should probably wrap it up, and we'll definitely have you back on, like, really soon. We appreciate, like, just your honesty. You're genuine. You're a good dude. You're the type of dude that, like, the second we met you, we just felt that connection with you. You're just a dude, just trying to live an honest life, raise your family, and take care of everybody, and love people. And the story that you told about, you know, whether we can ever say how that boy got healed, one thing we can say is, on the road to his healing, you were there and you were putting in work, and not a lot of people would do that. Not a lot of teachers would even still give the time to go and homeschool a dude that's paralyzed. And, you know, you're giving a broad stroke of what you did. I can only imagine the little details of all of that. So you're a good dude, bro. Like, and I think in a large sense, the initial point, and I can see why with your story and you kind of feeling the way you felt at 18, considering suicide and stuff like that, why you would even have brought that question up in light of what happened here this past weekend with Mr. Solo. And like, does having a belief of some type, whether it's true or not, doesn't it benefit? Because what you're saying is, it benefited me. It saved my life. And it seems to have saved this dude's life up until now. What's wrong with that? And I think that's a good question. It's an honest question.
Yeah.
And I do, you know, with all the problems with church, I do think that there are spots where the church does do a lot of good. But our goal here is we're searching for what's really real, which means we want the truth about shit. Like, I want to know the real truth, because you can do good things in the name of anything. The same way Nestor was saying, like, you can believe in whatever you believe, you know. So if me personally, Jason Soto, is to put his belief into something, it's because there's some sort of evidence of truth that is going to convince me to allow myself to believe in something. So that's where I'm at. But I don't think that it doesn't change people's lives having some sort of religion or some sort of things. It does. And so I think that's initially your question. And I think initially I agree with you. And I would say that, yes, it can be personally beneficial to people to have some sort of a belief. And, you know, it doesn't always have to be a religious belief, but I think in the context of what we're talking about religion. And that's what I would say. So, you know, hey, man, I think we're all searching for what's really real.
Yeah.
And hopefully we keep finding out at least little truths along the way, man. And in the meantime, we're all going to continue to, like, love people, do the best we can to inspire people, do what we can to help people, because no matter what you believe, that's humanity. You know what I mean? And that's what it means to be a human. What it's supposed to mean to be a human is to love each other and help each other and see it as that village. Like, the world should be a village where we're helping each other and doing the very best we can. And we can only do our part. You know what I mean? So that's on the way to truth. That's what I'm going to be doing, you know, raising my family and doing good and doing this, whatever I can to the people around me, and how far that can extend. Hopefully it can extend real far, and it does a lot of good for people. So, you know, that's where I'm at. I think if you guys have any last words, speak now or forever hold your peace.
That's what we got. Anything before we go?
No, you got some?
All right. I was just going to say, and I don't know, I saw somebody just posted right before about, you know, whether or not there's going to be like a lounge type thing for this podcast. But I would like to say that, if anybody wants to discuss any of this stuff further with me, I'm always open to this. And I appreciate you guys coming on and letting me talk and say stuff. So, you know, those that follow the other podcasts and you guys are in the lounge, you have questions for me or whatever. My Instagram's at A+9 design, plus is spelled out. If anybody wants to message me or wants to discuss anything further, I'm very open to that, you know. If you want to come to my tattoo shop and get tattooed, we're going to have a long talk.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
you over and over again and give you some artwork.
But on, bro. Get yourself promo on.
Yeah, I'm just playing around. But not now. We can't open yet. But, you know, whatever. No, I do appreciate you guys. And I appreciate all you guys do on both podcasts. I've said it to you guys before, and you know it. And same thing, you know, I love you guys for what you do and who you are as people, and the fact that you've been open to kind of let me into your group and your family. You know what I mean? Like, that's
no doubt.
I just had this conversation with a group of guys recently. It's like, we are tribal people. We are wired as men to be around other men and benefit and learn from each other. And I'll not saying anything about having groups of like all people, but there's something special about what you guys do in your podcast. I know you just had Candy on, and that was awesome to have a voice in there too. But there's something special about your group of guys that you guys are searching for truths. You guys are bringing a bunch of really amazing experiences you guys have all had, and you're willing to share that with people. And I think that's very important. So I appreciate you guys for that.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Now I feel all warm and bubbly on the inside, man.
That's what I do, homeboy.
Thank you, bro. That's either you or that chili dog I ate earlier. I'm not sure which.
Either way, I'll take it.
I know. I really appreciate Cookbook too, man. Just you know, seriously, because you know, when we go through shit like this, bro, I mean, you know, when you talked about the shotgun, like, what you didn't talk about is who was there for you. You know, who it had to be a fucking voice inside you. Like, where are the homeboys? And I know in my life right now, you know, I got my mom, who's a great support. But if I didn't have these dudes, you know, this is like it's like a weekly therapy thing for me, because I'm not saying that I'm suicidal, but I am, again, like, you know, to reiterate the point, I am not excited about shit that I've learned that is heartbreaking to me. The kind of, because my heart is so like I love people, and I want answers for everybody, bro. That's the hard part. I know I could hang within a certain group of people and they'd never have an issue. I could be in a certain community of people and it would just be like, and then I look outside and like, these people have no answers. Like, this stuff didn't work and doesn't work for them. How do I reach them then? You know what I mean? And I'm more so learning to just like, because of this forum, you know, because of Cookbook doing what he's doing, now it's like we have a place where we can express. I got a place where I can share shit, and hopefully it hits people that are either like me right now in questioning or back when I was, and they can find like a balance, since we're not coming at it like dogmatically, like, you motherfuckers who are believing this are stupid. You know, it's not like that. We're very, very open, and I'm trying to balance out just living and enjoying that side of it, and not being so like bombarded by not having answers. You know, that's what drives me crazy. Like, I just like not knowing. I want to know. It's like so frustrating. That's my whole Santa Claus story, you know? Where was he then? Well, he's got to be out there. He is real, you know? It's like, I'll just keep going. So this has been, you know, Cookbook doing what he's doing has really, for me, it's just helped me beyond words, man. I can't even when I don't feel like talking, it's like, it's just the fact that I have this, like, nigga, you got to talk. We're doing a podcast, you know? It's like,
let's go.
It just gives me like where I get to get it off my chest. Because sometimes when you sit and brood and shit, you can just like, your brain and you alone are enough to go, well, that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
you're right.
I've had enough, or whatever the case would be, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Now I know it wasn't the chili dogs. It's all you guys' love just hitting in the chest.
Yeah. No, and that's what you're saying. Like, I know that, like, I spent a good chunk of my life just being angry, like really, really angry. And that's good when you're making music and you know what I mean? Like, I think in art, period, I think a lot of happy art is not good. Let's be completely honest.
So true, dude. So true.
But, you know, and even you can even take, like, in the hip hop world, you take a guy like Snoop Dogg, which I know that dude to death, and you know, I met him and whatever. And I even like the Snoop Lion stuff. But when he was a hungry 19-year-old kid and angry, you compare to that what he does, like, there's no comparison. Let's be completely honest with what is good and not good art.
True, dude.
But,
so true.
But I will say there was a time in my life where I woke up and I go, man, this taking a lot of energy to be this angry all the time. When you got something like this where you guys can discuss things and, you know, we're all getting, you know, you can't be that guy forever. Nobody likes that guy in the long run. And so I don't want to be that guy, and I changed because of it, you know.
Yeah.
When I first moved out here, we used to, was dating this girl, and we'd go, all the new teachers get together and play board games. And, you know, after a few weeks of that, they're like, hey, man, you can't come no more. Like, I've always been a very competitive person, you know what I mean? So if maybe I had a cookbook and Nesto at that time, we could have chatted, I've been okay.
See?
Right.
You know,
and that right there is why we do what we do, man.
And it's important. It's important what you guys do. It's very important. So I appreciate it.
Well, cool, man. So those of you listening, remember, you can always email us, reallythoughpodcast@gmail.com, with any questions, concerns, rebuttals, challenges, hate mail. You know, any of the hate mail, you should definitely address it to Aaron, the Forman. I'm just kidding.
I'll take it. I'll take that.
You can hit us with anything that you want, anything you disagree with or agree with, whatever you want to say, you can do it. And as you heard at the beginning of this, even if you leave us a voicemail, we will play it. just like we did at the beginning of this very episode. So really though podcast at gmail.com. And we've often said that you don't got to be some celebrity or some super wise pastor. You don't have to have anything. If you got a good story, we'll bring you on. Case in point, Aaron the Forman, once again, sitting in the seat with us, sharing his story with us. And like he said, we're not about debating you. We're never going to debate nobody that comes on here. We might bring up questions, but there's no debate. There's no attack. This is just strictly about us searching for what's really real. This is really though, and we are out of here. Thank you so much for listening.
The point cannot be explained in words.